Time for another summer trip. This time we're going to stay completely in British Columbia, and I've got the map out. Have a look at the intended destination. This is a trip I'm looking forward to. Country that I love. Haven't been there for just over 50 years. And the idea is Victoria, Port Hardy, up to Bella Coola, and then a slow trip across a couple of stops on the way to Williams Lake, and then Okanagan and North Vancouver, and home in about 10 days or a little bit more. On our way, August 25th, up the Malahat. A stop at the viewpoint where there was so much haze we couldn't see Mount Baker. We stopped in Duncan for a few minutes at the Forest Discovery Center. Lunch at the Shady Rest, one of our longtime favorites, and right on Qualicum Beach. In Courtenay, the marina was right behind our hotel. Downtown Courtenay boasts one large mural and many flowers. For dinner, we drove out to the Cumberland Brewing Company. The next day, we stopped at Oyster Bay Shoreline Park, long enough for me to go for a walk on the beach. Farther north, we parked for a few minutes, and I walked down to see Homack Lake. Beyond Homack, many kilometers bordered by dense forest. Then Port McNeill for lunch, and a stroll along the waterfront. Our destination for the day was Port Hardy, with its well-manicured waterfront park and its wooden carrot commemorating completion of the Island Highway. The park features a very pleasant beachside walkway which runs past the Pierside Landing Hotel, where our room had a fine view of the coastline to the north. August 27th, we boarded the Northern Seawolf, sailed up to Bella Coola, and drove on to Haggensburg. We cast off about 7 a.m. Passengers amused themselves with music, or stood on the upper deck, watched a passing tug and tow, saw some sea otters. With all the fog and low-hanging cloud, it was not a great day for scenery. Dramatic rock formations, and everywhere, tiny streams come crashing down the mountainsides. Toward the head of the inlet, we passed a small logging operation, had our first view of Bella Coola, where we docked about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and drove on to Haggensburg to the Bella Coola Mountain Lodge, shown here the next morning. So here we are. Welcome to our room at the Mountain Lodge in Haggensburg. Sort of medium as luxury goes, but it's quite adequate. 2 beds, one slightly rumpled, the television set, the kitchenette, a small table with a couple of chairs, and let me show you the bathroom. And here's the bathroom, a perfectly normal little bathroom with an instruction sign on the wall, bilingual of course, and also appropriate warnings in English. Later that morning we visited the harbor, saw the boats, the boat trailers, the estuary, the plaques that commemorate Alexander Mackenzie's visit. This image of the actual Mackenzie's rock was copied from the BC Parks website. So I have bought a Bella Coola walking tour, and I'm going to walk around and do some photographs and later on voiceover explanation of parts of the town. Right here we have the Bella Coola Museum, which I'll give you some shots inside. Mementos of the original Norwegian settlement, and I can actually remember washing machines like this. Point 3 on the tour is Copus Store, built in 1958, successor to Brindleton & Sons General Store, dating from 1898. And these 3 buildings are all new since 1990, which is when the walking tour was published. The First Nations Pentecostal Church is new since 1990. The Mackenzie United Church dates from 1927. The Emmanuel United Church is next door to the House of Numus of the Nusalt people. The tour guide includes a photograph of the Indian Day School, now long gone, but commemorated by a totem pole. With the mother at the base, above her the right side up children have managed to escape the government schools. The upside down father without a mouth, representing parents unable to speak for their children. A blank space for the cultural void suffered by those forced into the schools. Half man, half eagle, representing people reclaiming their culture, with the figures at the top of the pole symbolizing the goal of total forgiveness and healing. In the afternoon, we took a bear watching trip on the Bella Coola River.
A lot of salmon yet, but there are a few around. So some of the bears have taken to eating in the forest, rose hips, berries, grasses, that sort of thing, while they're waiting. So if we see any movement in the bush, any branches rattling or shaking, let me know. We'll stop and cut space and spend some time there and see if it is a bear. Yeah, go ahead.
We couldn't have had a nicer day on the river, and we saw some fresh bear tracks. Though I suspect some of us were wondering if we'd ever see an actual bear. And then, there he was. A grizzly. Our guide estimated it at 3 or 4 years old. And we finished the day feeling that we had seen what we came for. Next morning, on our way to Anaheim Lake, we crossed the Nusatsum River, drove along the Bella Coola River, past farms further up the valley, and began the long climb up into the Coast Range. We stopped at a viewpoint overlooking the Anarco River. We followed the long, graveled climb of Freedom Road, pushed through the mountains in 1952-53 by the determination of the people of Bella Coola. onto the Chilcotin Plateau to Anaheim Lake with some typical Chilcotin fencing and the Dean River where it's still a small stream. We had a good lunch at Donna's place across the street from the town's main business and community bulletin board. We checked into the Eagle's Nest, into a comfortable room featuring, believe it or not, a piano as well as a television, and a small screened-in patio with a view of a bay at the end of Anaheim Lake, and a small but comfortable writing table. The grounds of the hotel include an outdoor patio framed by masonry and made bright by a profusion of flowers. On the lake side of the hotel, a walking path borders the water, and the boat dock is effectively protected from gulls by a lifelike owl. Those bay windows look out from the dining room where we took our evening meal. Next morning, onto the Chilcotin Highway heading east. Open country, meadows, ranches, saddle horses, open range cattle. Further east we begin to see hills, small mountains, Miocene lava flows, and eventually our first views of the Chilcotin River. We took a side road into Piper Lake for a lakeside picnic. We had a lovely spot. But, oops, somebody forgot the burgundy glasses. Have a little glug of this for a starter.
Yeah, I will. Oh, it's nice and cool.
Farther east, the road climbs well above the Chilcotin River before reaching Risky Creek and the historic Chilcotin Lodge, with its old-time dining room warmed by an old-style wood-burning stove, supplied, of course, by old-fashioned muscle power. Here we're looking south from the lodge toward this road which we took the next morning, running south from Risky Creek down to Farewell Canyon on the Chilcotin River. With a view back toward Risky Creek and through open range, rolling away to low forested hills. A corral, small ponds, with their ducks, ruffed grouse, down to Farewell Canyon on the Chilcotin River, where a native guy was dip netting for salmon. Another native told me where I might find the bighorn sheep I was looking for, so I kept stopping on the way uphill and checking all the draws. I'd almost given up when I saw this small herd of bighorn ewes. Once we'd seen the sheep, which was the purpose of our side trip, we headed east, across the Fraser, to Williams Lake with its famous stampede ground, with its park, and to the Coast Fraser Hotel. And the next morning, a stop at 100 Mile House for the world's largest cross-country skis. On Highway 25 toward Little Fort, we passed farms, and lakes, and then down the North Thompson to Kamloops, seen here in the evening and the morning from our hotel room. Skipping the Okanagan portion of our trip, except for this bear in our friend's backyard. And then the Coquihalla, Active Pass, and back where we started.